Hi, this is Larry with ManCave Mayhem. Today we are putting the Thermo-Bob on the KLR 650. This is my first gen 2006 KLR 650 that I acquired in a trade. I'm fixing this up for my son so we can get this thing on the road and run it to our trip that we're going on here soon. So we're doing a few upgrades to it. We just got through changing the oil on it. What else did we do? We did the Doohickey. Yeah, the Doohickey. So we got that taken care of. So now we're gonna go ahead and we're going to do the Thermo-Bob, which I will show you how to do right now. First thing we're gonna do is drain some of this coolant out, and we're gonna do that with this little screw right down here. Now I'm assuming this is probably the OEM coolant, so it's been in here a minute. So we're gonna get all this coolant out of this bike, or at least as much as we can, and we're gonna replenish that coolant. So we might as well kill two birds with one stone and put the Thermo-Bob on too. So that's what we're doing right now. All right, we're gonna use a 8mm socket to get that drain bolt out. And get this off right now. And there ain't much coolant coming out of that thing. So we're gonna vent the cap and then it should come out. Now we got her flowing. So you'll wanna drain all that out first. We're gonna, like I said, we're putting new stuff in anyhow. This is OEM coolant. Now we're in the process of pulling this stupid tank off. We got these vent hoses or smog hoses, whatever they are. Now we're gonna get a 10mm and throw on that. And get this off while Brandon is getting the other guard off that somebody put on with American screws off of somebody's Barbie dream house or Razor scooter. I don't know. All right. Yeah, Brandon's taking the thermostat cover or the thermostat housing off now. That's going to be an 8mm socket for that. So we're going to get that taken off and then we'll move to the next step. We have that off. We're going to install the Thermo-Bob unit. So we'll get that on there and I'll show you how that goes. Next step in the process is we're going to put this big O-ring in here that came with the kit. And now we will put the Thermo-Bob unit up here. Like so. That's going to go there. And then we'll put the thermostat on that, and then the thermostat housing goes in. So we're going to do that in that order. And then we'll get back. Once you have that on, now you want to torque that down to, I think it's 69 to 70 inch-pounds. And if, yeah, so 1 inch variable, I guess, right? So that's what we're going to do right now. We'll torque that down and then we're going to move on to the next step. Now that we got that torqued down, I got it at 65 inch-pounds. We're going to move down to this rear hose here and we want to take that off. We need to get it off completely. That runs to the base of the radiator, so we're going to take that hose off. And once you get this removed, you're going to go 1 3/4 inches from the radiator and then cut that section. Then you go another 5/8 of an inch and cut that section, and that allows for this piece to go in there and get clamped. So that's what we're going to do next. Now that we got that cut, we've got this screwed on pretty snug. That's kind of the angle it should be at. Now we're going to feed that back through. Actually, I am going to put the hose on right now and clamp it with one of the small clamps provided, and then it should make it a little easier to get that hooked up. Okay, now that we got this hooked up and the one hooked up over here on the radiator side, hooked back up, you can see that. And we fed the line through here. This is all tightened down. Then you just simply connect this to that with the provided hose clamp. Also understand too that if you go on the Thermo-Bob website, Wattman website, which is www.watt-man.com, there's full instructions too. So I just wanted to show you how we did this. Not necessarily a perfect how-to video, but it's a video. You know, I'm not sure if this thing's gonna work or work better. I don't, you know, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, I guess. So we're putting this on, or drinking the coolant, one or the other. Putting this on just to hopefully help the longevity of the bike and keep it reliable. We'll see what happens. Now that we've got a few different things done to it, we're gonna move on to the next step. Okay, just an update on the KLR 650. We've got the carburetor out of this thing. We got the Doohickey in it. We got the Thermo-Bob installed. We got new coolant, new spark plug, and carburetor has been rebuilt. I put it in the ultrasonic and put a whole new rebuild kit in it. So the carburetor's ready to go back in. So we're getting that done. Now, before we do the carburetor, finish putting the carburetor back in, we got the frame split apart here. And we're going to put that reinforcement kit in from Eagle Mike. So we're going to do that. And then we'll get the carburetor back in this thing and hopefully get some new fuel lines on it and vacuum lines. And get this thing running. We got the frame completely back together now. The subframe is connected with new bolts from Eagle Mike and the drill through bolt. I don't know if I'm going to run the racks or engine guards yet, so I left the long one out. But yeah, then we got the carburetor back in and hooked up. Looks like everything's functioning the way it should as far as the carburetor. We don't know yet if it is, you know, idling good or anything, because obviously I haven't got the tank on. But we're going to go ahead and replace all fuel lines. I got a new fuel line here, and then we're going to replace all these vacuum lines to get this all squared away. So trying to make this thing as dependable as possible anyhow. So that's what we're doing next, and then we'll move on to getting the tank back on, see if this thing runs good. Yeah, we got some of those bad fuel lines replaced and ran, and the vent tubes. We're going to go ahead and install this All Balls Racing petcock rebuild kit for this thing. A lot of people just replace these petcocks. I'm going to pull it apart, clean it up. You know, a lot of people bypass them. I'm just going to run the vacuum. So we're going to go ahead and pull this apart and get this thing going. So that's the next step in the process, getting this KLR back on the road. I also probably should put this pipe back on. It's just kind of hanging there. So we need to do that too. When you're taking any of this crap apart too, make sure you got a good set of Japanese industrial standard screwdrivers, because the regular Phillips just tend to strip them out. So make sure you do that. It'll save you a lot of heartache and headache. Believe me, I've learned from experience. Now that we got this petcock out, we're going to go ahead and tear it apart. The diaphragm's right back here, so we're going to pull this cover off, get the diaphragm out. I think I'm going to take this whole thing apart and throw it in the ultrasonic cleaner and just kind of clean it up. It's really not that bad. It's actually pretty dang good shape. The buddy I bought it from took pretty good care of the bike, and he had it garaged the whole time, and doesn't look like he left fuel in it very long, so that's a good thing for a change. I finally got lucky, right? In this kit, they give you everything individually wrapped. It's really nice. This is the old gasket. Still looks like it's in decent shape, but I was getting a leak out of this petcock, so I just wanted to resolve the issue. I don't want to have any issues while we're on our trip, so I'm trying to get this all squared away so there's no problems whatsoever. So we're going to go from here and get things cleaned up and get it started. So as you take this apart, you know, they actually even provide these screws brand new, which is kind of cool. So I took the diaphragm apart, and there's this small spring that fits right here, just so you can kind of see how that operates. And then this actually comes out on a plate, it looks like. And then we got a gasket on this side. And this looks like the whole setup here. You got both gaskets. And there's the O-ring that goes around that too. So it's got everything. So we're pulling that apart, and then next we'll pull the front off and get that squared away. Show you, this whole thing just kind of slides out of this plastic piece. And this plastic piece can only go on one way. You can't put it on backwards. It just won't work because there's pins and they go on a certain way. So that fits in there. And then this cover, or this diaphragm, you have to kind of fold it up. This one piece on this side, you kind of have to fold up and shove through there, so it sets in there. You have to fold it down, shove it through, it sets in there, and then that acts kind of as a gasket on the other side. So that's kind of a clean little setup, actually. So we're gonna get that done. That's our bad part, and set all our bad parts aside, and we'll keep going. Okay, so we got this cover plate off on the front side, and there's a little thin O-ring that comes off here. And that looks, it's almost like it's not even an O-ring, it's a metal washer, like one of those Warpsy doodle washers. That's what I'm gonna call that. And that does come in the kit as well. So now we're going to pull this section out. Now I have discovered the leaking problem. As you can see, there's an O-ring that goes around the outside of this, and it's toast. So that was probably the whole issue with the leak. But we're going to go ahead and throw all this in, get it cleaned up. And then you look down in here and you got this other gasket that goes in here. And so we're going to pull that out, and then we'll get this in the hot tank and get it cleaned up. All right, we got everything out of the ultrasonic cleaner, and now we're going to start assembling all this and putting it back together. So I'm going to start with the O-ring that goes on this valve and get this valve put back together, and then we'll get this diaphragm all together. Like I said, this isn't a how-to video, but I'm just kind of showing you what's involved with this, and we're going to get this back together, get it back in the tank. That's all for now. All right, today we're working on some more upgrades on the KLR 650. Thermo-Bob is in, which regulates the temperature of the coolant and makes the bike supposedly run better and last longer. Makes the bike actually run a little warmer, but more consistently. Then we have the Doohickey that we installed. That's all working good. We are going to add a tooth to this front sprocket because of the trip we're taking. We're going to be doing a lot of highway miles. We're getting rid of these tires, which are shot out, and we opted for some Shenko 705s, and so these are the Shenkos that we're throwing on. So we're going to put new shoes on this beast. I've got the windscreen off. I'm replacing some stuff. There's a little vibration up here too, which is not unusual for a KLR 650, but we're going to go through and just kind of start. I got a new chain, new rear sprocket, new front sprocket. We're going to do that. We're going to put new tires on it, new tubes in it, and then we're just going to kind of go from there, and we'll see where we are with it. But that's all for now. All right, we got the rear tire off. We changed it out, which was like going to the gym. It was rough. I didn't want to videotape it because all you would have seen is me cussing and me hurting my hands. So this is the new tire. It's on. That's the Shenko 705. We're getting rid of the more dirtable tire for some street action. Now we're going to put on some Tusk brake pads. Might as well change out the pads. They probably don't really need it. They look pretty good, but we're going to do it anyhow. Clean that disc up a little bit. I'm going to pop the chain off. We're going to put a new sprocket on, new front sprocket, 16 tooth front sprocket, and then we'll move to the front. All right, with the new chain on, we got the chain adjustment all set, and now we ran over to this other side, put a new set of brakes on. They were about 50%, so I added some brake pads, and then I just kind of roughed up the surface, knocked the glaze off the rear disc, and so now I'm trying to get things buttoned up. We got the chain guard, the front chain, or primary chain cover in the ultrasonic getting clean because it had a buildup of all this crap, you know, a bunch of chain grease and stuff. So that's where we're at right now. We're gonna start moving forward. Like I said, we're gonna get that front tire off, get the new front tire on, and then we'll start putting this thing back. All right, we got the old front tire off. We got the new front tire on. What a pain in the butt. I balanced it. Now we're gonna go ahead and throw this back on and do the brakes. And then we should be done with the front end of this. This is the Shenko E705 tire that we're running on this front and back. So that's all. We're getting it done. All right, we got the front wheel back on with the new tire. I cleaned up the brake pad because it was glazed over, went to change the brakes, and the brakes were like brand new. So it looks like either who rode this bike just rode the back brakes because the back brakes were almost worn out, or they put new front brakes on because the front brakes are like new. So anyhow, we got that done. Now I'm gonna start getting some plastics back on, getting this thing buttoned up a little bit, take her out for a test run. All right, we got the KLR back together mostly. We got all the side panels on it. She's looking pretty good. We got all the mods done that we needed to get done. Now we are going to put on some new hand grips because these hand grips are shot. You can see that. And we're also gonna put in some bark busters. They're actually made by Tusk. They're their version of them, so kind of more of a motocross version, but they'll look like they should be pretty good for this bike. Hopefully we can get them all fitted on there. So that's what we're gonna do next. That's all for now. Whenever you're taking grips off these bikes, be careful not to cut yourself. Whoever put these grips on, probably Kawasaki, really laid them on heavy. They got some glue on there that's crazy. So you might want to just be careful when you're cutting them off to not lay your hand open. But you'll want to clean that up. And my buddy told me, and I'm going to do it, use a little spray paint and slide them on. That kind of helps them stick if you don't have the glue. So I'm going to give that a shot and see. Good old Donnie boy. He taught me how to do it. He taught me how to do it. All right, we're out in the shop again today after taking the KLR on its first little maiden voyage after installing the doohickey, the hand guards and everything. I had these hand guards on, they weren't right, so I ended up bending them and it made them perfect. They fit wonderfully now. And they actually protected me on my little crash, which you'll probably see in this video. So that's a good thing, but man, this bike did really well. I'm real happy with it. So is it a tractor? Yeah, it's a tractor. Is it a tank? Yeah, the suspension sucked on it. But overall, the bike did real well. Not the best sand tires, although it was probably more of my riding skills that weren't the best. So that's where we're at with the KLR right now. This bike's ready for my son. I think I did... the cover did come off for the battery, so I'm going to work on that, get that fixed, clean the bike up, and we'll be ready for the next step. All right, that's gonna about do it for the KLR 650 bulletproofing build. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications. Check us out on Instagram at ManCave_mayhem. And just remember, I'm just a man in a cave causing mayhem. Thanks again for watching, folks.